Welcome to a special edition of the Good Word Podcast. We are live from the NBA Finals, Game 4, where we might have seen the NBA Finals just conclude. I'm your host, Vincent Goodwill, here from Yahoo Sports on the Ball Don't Lie Network. If you are listening to us on Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, or you are watching us on YouTube, you can see my resplendent jacket. But if you are watching us on YouTube, you can see my man live from Beantown, staying up late, Ben Rohrbach from Yahoo Sports, the man who correctly voted Jimmy Butler as Eastern Conference Finals MVP. Stand up and take a bow, Ben. How you doing, man?
How's that Caleb Martin votes doing right now?
Not good. Not good, because they needed something from Caleb Martin. They needed something from Max Strus. They needed something from Gabe Vincent. They needed something from all of those undrafted players who came up so big in the first three series. And now they're staring down the barrel, Ben, at a 3-1 series deficit to a Denver Nuggets team that very much looks like champions. What stuck out to you tonight, aside from the fact that the Heat just couldn't get close? Was it Aaron Gordon? Was it Bruce Brown? Or was it Jokic and Jamal Murray just sort of working themselves into really good and decent nights after their historic Game 3?
Yeah, I think it was the collective of the non-Jokic Murray guys, especially Bruce Brown and Aaron Gordon. Those guys were huge in pretty much second, third, fourth quarter. Second and third was Gordon. Fourth, Brown stepped up, but those were huge. And I actually thought Denver's defense was amazing tonight.
Yeah.
And that kind of really stuck out to me because I feel like Jokic's defense in this series has been very underrated. And then with him out, I think they limited to the Heat to 22 points in the fourth quarter. When the Heat looked like they were going to make a huge charge there. And that was the game.
Yeah, you think about it. You just brought up Denver's defense. Part of that is the low possessions because Miami wants to slow everything down. They know they can't get into a track meet with Denver because they don't have the horses to run. They don't have necessarily the explosive plays. But when you consider the way that this NBA goes now, scoring 110 is an easy proposition. 93, 111, 94, and tonight, 95. You can't win in today's NBA with that type of production, but consider the source on the other side. You can probably only play this way against the Denver Nuggets because if you get into a track meet, you're going to lose. It just feels like, Denver's defense, Ben, is really slowing things down. Jimmy Butler's not really getting good looks. They're staying home on him. Bam Adebayo, you forced 7 turnovers from him today. And Jokic, while he'll never be anybody's defensive player of the year, he's providing enough resistance, it looks like, at the rim. Their length is working. Aaron Gordon is there. Like, Denver has the bones of being a good defensive team, a really good defensive team. They just haven't been that way this year, and now it looks like they're starting to figure things out at the best possible time.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if it was just this game or the last couple games, but they've sort of figured out that they don't need to double Jimmy and Bam. And that leaves the other guys to stay home on the shooters. And if you take them out, it's just like impossible for the Heat to score enough to keep up with Denver. So, I mean, I don't know if Jimmy's run out of gas. Jimmy's maybe feeling the ankle a little bit. He's not pressing enough, attacking enough. If he's not superhuman, then and they're not making shots, like, what are you going to do against Denver?
Yeah, that was the thing that I had just written for Yahoo Sports. I'm sure it'll be up in a very short period of time. Like, spectacular was going to be required of the Miami Heat tonight. Spectacular was going to be required. Transcendent was going to be required. And the one transcendent, capable player that the Heat have is Jimmy Butler. Like, remember the last 2 years, Ben, Game 4 last year in Boston. You were in the building for that. I was in the building for that. Steph Curry's Game 4 against the Celtics, down 2-1. He put together that transcendent performance, put the team on his back, changed the whole tone of the series. 2 years ago, Giannis Antetokounmpo with the Milwaukee Bucks down 2-1 to the Phoenix Suns. He had the greatest block in the history of the NBA, right? Like transcendent performances on your home floor with your team down 2-1. That was going to be required. And Jimmy Butler was really good. Yeah, 25, 7 and 5, only took 17 shots. And the only 17 shots might have been the problem because kicking it out to Gabe Vincent and Max Strus and those guys have not hit shots. And if the Heat were going to win tonight, it was going to have to be on the back of Jimmy doing something like he did in round 1 against Milwaukee when he scored 50 plus, or, maybe they should have, maybe they should have brought somebody in green out here from Boston to just, upset Jimmy and force him into Super Saiyan or something like that. Maybe they should have called Grant Williams out of his hospital bed. You know what I mean? Like that's what felt like what was required tonight. And Jimmy, just like you said, maybe it's the ankle, maybe it's the playoff games catching up to him. He just doesn't look as explosive at this point, and that's exactly what they need.
Yeah, there was the one play that really stuck out to me. I think it was the first minute out of the half. Jimmy in transition, he got a steal, got out in transition. Jokic was still running back, and Jimmy just kind of stopped. He didn't attack. He pulled up for like a 10-foot jumper, missed it over Jokic. And that seemed like early in the playoffs, he would have just attacked the rim, either getting the foul, trying to get an and one. But when he did that, I was like, oh man, that's just like, it's tough. I don't know. You're right. Is he run out of steam? Is he feeling the ankle? I don't know, but yeah, if he's not superhuman, then the Heat are
toast.
They are what they are.
Yeah, they're done. They've run out of talent. Like that. Yeah. That's honestly, like, it's hard to say because a lot of those guys they're tryhards. They've overachieved. It's a great story for the NBA. It's a great story for, in terms of development. And especially with the draft coming up, if you don't get drafted and you stick with it, you go through the G League, you find an organization that fits you and everything else. But when you get to the NBA Finals, like, there's only so many more adjustments a coach can make. And we all sit around and play amateur coach, right? And we say, man, if this guy if Spo would just do this, or Michael Malone would just do this. Y'all, by game 4, the adjustments have been made by and large. There may be a small tweak here or there to help you with the margins. But by game 4, both teams know exactly what they're running. Both teams know exactly who's coming in and where. And it comes down to execution. And Denver has the better players, especially in these moments where, Miami cut it to 6 or they cut it to 8. They just didn't have enough to get over the hump. And they're already getting production from Kevin Love. They're getting more than one would expect from Kyle Lowry, given the type of regular season that he had. I don't know how much more you could expect from the Heat. Conversely, Ben, Jamal Murray with another 10-assist game. I think it's 4 straight in the finals for him. I don't know if he's had 4 straight assist games in his entire NBA career.
That's a great question.
To this point. But he's playing a controlled game almost, Ben. He's not forcing the action. He's not committing a lot of turnovers. He's not taking a lot of bad shots. He didn't have the masterful game tonight that he did in game 3. But what do you see in Jamal Murray? Because it just seems like he's very much in control of his body, of the offense, of the series from where he sits.
Yeah, there was a clip I was watching from after the game, Malone talking to the Nuggets in the locker room, and he said biggest stat that stood out to him from the box score was Jamal, 12 assists, 0 turnovers. And that's with him getting blitzed, double teamed up top, like 27 feet out. He's just making the right play. And guys are flashing to the ball. Like that was, that's a credit to the way the Nuggets play. I mean, even with Jokic out, they're so used to being aggressive, cutting to the ball, cutting to the basket, just constantly moving. So even when he's out, they can be, they're sort of used to being aggressive. I don't know if like the Celtics were like that when they were playing the Heat. It was kind of like if Tatum wasn't on, then those guys were like, oh, do I step up now? But Denver's just sort of used to attacking, and And Gordon, I think he said after the game, I think we have a counter to pretty much everything, and that seems right.
Yeah, they had, like you said, there's an answer to every question. I think there was a play, and from where I sat in the 300 section, it's hard to see these little bodies because they look like dots. But I felt like Murray got blitzed on a high screen and roll, and he was out probably near half court. He kicked it on the right wing to Caldwell Pope. Gordon was in the left corner, and I felt like Gordon flashed to the rim.
Yes.
KCP, who's not been known as a passer, not known as a playmaker, on that cut, Gordon went up, got an alley-oop, and Bam Adebayo, who was the blitzer, had to run all the way back from nearly half court to try to catch that alley-oop pass, and he couldn't. That just strikes to me as we're going to bet that the ball can move faster than you, that we can use your aggression against you. That's what it looked like for Denver tonight. They used everything Miami tried against them.
I loved that play. I rewatched that play after it happened because I was trying to see what happened, and you're right. I think it was Strus and Bam attacked Murray up top, and then Jokic sort of flashed to the top of the key. Butler had to account for him because Bam had doubled.
Yep.
So Gordon just went right to the basket, and KCP just skipped going to Jokic and threw it up. It was a great pass by him. But yeah, that play was indicative of like just how locked in the Nuggets are from an offensive standpoint.
And it's funny because you covered the East Finals. You got to see Boston and Miami and the way that series twisted and turned. And the temptation, I believe, Ben, is going to say, if Boston was here, it'd be a much more competitive series. Oh, if Milwaukee was here, it would be a much more competitive series. Ben, I think we'd wind up being at this point, no matter who was sitting here, because Denver just looks that much better than everybody. You know what I mean? They literally look like they're a team that's almost inevitable. Like, I think we're going to look at this, assuming they win the series and assuming they win it in 5 and don't make us go through this, mundane exercise. As much as I love Miami, it's been rainy as hell. I ain't even really been able to take advantage of Miami, so to speak. But making us go through this mundane exercise, Ben, of coming back here. So let's say they finish off the Heat in 5. Not saying they will, because Miami is the most stubborn bunch of sons of bitches I've ever come across, right? But let's say they do. This is a pretty remarkable playoff run that they are putting together with beating these Heat, beating the Lakers, sweeping the Lakers, beating the Phoenix Suns of Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and leading them down to a path of God knows what, and the Minnesota Timberwolves, who honestly gave them a much better fight than we thought they gave them. Like, it's starting to look like they just have put together a really historic playoff run.
Yeah. I mean, I'm obviously friends with a lot of Celtics fans. My wife's family is always talking to me about that series, but it's like pretty much everybody is just like, you know what? It's all right. We lost to the Heat because we would have got smoked by the Denver team. What they've done, like, it seemed, you're kind of like, the Lakers were kind of pretenders. The Suns were put together like middle of the season, but I mean, whoever you put in front of them, they're just steamrolling.
Yeah. And I think the only reason, Ben, that we don't look at Denver as this really historic team is because we haven't looked at them as this historic team, right? I think it took Golden State one championship win. Maybe also all it takes is one championship win. Then you get the championship respect. Then all of a sudden everybody becomes, your biggest fan. And whether this is the next 3 years or the next 4 years, like they acquired some first round draft capital from Oklahoma City. That's going to help them sort of with cost control players. So they're looking ahead for the future at the same time while possibly winning the championship. Like, it just feels like this team isn't going anywhere, at least in the Western Conference for the next 3 years, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think not having Murray the last 2 playoff runs sort of let everybody, kind of like we forgot about how good they were before that. I think that was when they were Western Conference Finals. It was people were like, oh, bubble, whatever.
Right.
But that team was really good at the time. They've obviously added some huge pieces to the mix. Gordon's perfect for them. KCP and Brown have been perfect complementary players. Jokic was kind of saying that tonight after the game. He said, we've added some guys that really buy into the way that we play, and that's shown this year. So, I mean, yeah, it looks like Christian Brown could be a player for them coming up.
Yes, it does.
In even next year or whatever, if they lose Brown to free agency. So yeah, I don't see them going away. Like, Jokic seems like an unstoppable force that can't be injured. Tonight he had the ankle roll, and it was does he even need two ankles? Like, he doesn't need to be explosive to dominate the game. So, yeah, with those two main guys healthy, obviously they're a great run organization. They always seem to find guys that complement their players. So credit to them, man. It's like Heat culture. That there's a culture in Denver.
Nuggets culture. We're gonna get that. We're gonna get that copyrighted, and then the Nuggets will complain that nobody says anything nice about them. They couldn't come up with their own slogan. But before we move on to Aaron Gordon, because I do want to talk about them, the Nuggets I can really like the Denver Nuggets, while at the same time not necessarily like their get down. Like they talk all the time. Nobody loves us. Nobody wants us. All this other stuff, and then you try to get to know them, and they're like, nah. They give you the Heisman. Like, I'm like, pick a lane, y'all. Like, one or the other, pick a lane. But before we move on to Aaron Gordon, like, and this is a great note from our producer extraordinaire, John Gennaro, third player ever with 12 assists and 0 turnovers in a finals game. The other two, Robbie Reed in 1986 and Magic Johnson in 1987 against Ben's Celtics. But that might have happened before he was born. And then he has the first player with 10 plus assists in his first 4 NBA Finals games. Remember how many great historic point guards have been in the finals. Not Magic, not Isaiah, not Chris Paul, not John Stockton. None of them have had what Jamal Murray has had when he's played against Jimmy Butler for a large part of the series, defending him. One of the best defenders in the league. Of course, he's hobbled on the ankle, but he's still one of the best, most cagey defenders in the league. And he's carving up the Miami Heat along with Nikola Jokic now. But I wanted to get to Aaron Gordon. This guy was miscast as a number 1 option in Orlando when he was over there with all the babies. And he was a slam dunk guy and everything else. And he's come to Denver and he's transformed, not even necessarily transformed his game. I just feel like Denver has brought out the best of what he does, and he's not forced to do more. But if you leave him open, he would hit 3 threes, which the Miami did, right? It's unexpected, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was looking up tonight to see what they gave up for him. It wasn't like people were lining up to get Aaron Gordon and pay him, because I think he was due for a new contract. Mm-hmm. And people were like, is he really a $20-25 million guy? And it's like, for this team, he is. They identified him as the perfect guy. He said tonight that he came into the league like a defense first guy. I don't really remember him being like that sort of guy. Like, he was sort of just this explosive athlete, but yeah, I mean, his athleticism, cutting to the basket, his ability to space the floor, he can play make a little bit. I think he did that with Jokic out. I think he had 6 assists tonight.
Yeah, he did.
He gets in where he fits in. He doesn't really need to have the ball to make an impact on the game. He's just like that. They have so much firepower offensively that he can concentrate on defense and just do his thing, get behind the defense when he needs to. And, he just pretty much does whatever he needs. And that's a great thing to have, like, from a guy who's, was a go-to player in Orlando. Like, not all those guys just buy into that role when they come to a new team.
And here's the crazy thing. For the play coming into this game, for the playoffs, he was 15 of 40 from three. He was 37% from three. Small sample size, right? You're not making even a three a game. But if you're left open in those non-Jokic minutes, if you're basically sagging the defense down because you don't have the clear passing lanes, like he's going to be a guy that can take them, even if he takes around 2.2 shots a game, he can make it. He has the confidence to make it, but they don't need him to make it. And I've seen the Lakers go through that where they left him open. He hit a couple. They never adjusted. Because they felt like, hey, we'll leave him open and he'll gum up the offense. He'll take bad shots. He's never taken bad shots, even if he's made a couple of them. Like, it feels like he and the rest of the Nuggets, and this is our final point on this, at least tonight, been there playing within themselves. You know what I mean? You don't see guys doing things that they shouldn't. Like, there's going to be variances in excellence of performances. Like, it's not necessarily the 40-point triple-double, the 30-point triple-double, but you don't see guys doing things that's out of their character. They're doing things they're comfortable doing. They're very dedicated to the game plan. They know how they're supposed to play. And honestly, Ben, they've played with a seriousness in their approach. Throughout the playoffs, it's been very professional. They haven't taken the game off. They got a little cute in game two, but they didn't take the game off. They just got a little cute. We've seen teams take games off in these playoffs. Denver has been serious this entire postseason, and I think that's been the most impressive thing about them.
Yeah, I think like there's been, I mean, it was game one every time. This time it was game two where the Heat like hit you with the, oh my God, this team never stops playing. Like they just never quit. And those other teams didn't respond to that. Like, they didn't come in for the rest of the series with that mentality that these guys, they're not going to stop playing. And that's what Denver's done. They came in 3-4 and they just haven't let off the gas. I mean, they've just responded the way everyone else now wishes they did, because I'm sure the Bucks and Celtics are thinking, man, like, why didn't we just do this? But maybe they just couldn't.
No, Denver's responding is very simple. Denver's responding like champions.
Yeah, exactly.
And now we're going to look ahead to Game 5. We're going to fly back to Denver. For those who said Nuggets in 3.5, well, might be 4.5 now. You know what I mean? So as we look ahead, Tyler Hero, it doesn't seem like he's passing the contact portion of the practices that he's going through with the broken right hand, and it's he's not hasn't been clear to play. It seems hard to see him being cleared, even though you've got a few days between now and Monday. It's Friday. You've got a couple more days, with the travel and everything else for the finals. But it's just hard to see him coming in and making an impact in this series. Like, you expect Tyler Hero to come in and be the 21-point per game guy, but that just doesn't feel realistic. I mean, how do you see that necessarily playing out?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I would doubt that he comes back, but if he like, ideally he is the kind of guy that they need. Like,
yeah, they
need somebody else to be able to score and play make. But to come in after like that much rust into the finals, into a down 3-1 finals,
yeah,
that's a hell of a lot to ask, and that's just another guy that they can target, like him on defense against this team. I don't know, like, with rust too, it's like, oh God, that's not a great solution.
Not just that, Ben, but when you're a guy coming off of like a hand injury, you ever notice how the Nuggets slap down and swat down? They don't always try to block your shot. They just swat down on you when you're about to shoot.
KCP will make you feel that, yeah.
KCP, Jokic, who, regardless of what you guys think, that is a big, country, strong Joker right there. And I don't mean Joker isn't his nickname. I mean Joker like son of a gun. You know what I mean? Like, so if he slaps down on you and you've got a broken and recovering right wrist or right hand, you're going to have a sore right wrist or right hand and going to be very angry that someone just slaps at you. And best believe, Ben, going through these contact practices, that the coaches are doing just that. They have to prepare him for it. And if he's taking a stinger and having a lot of pain in that, then it wouldn't be wise to throw him out there for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it is. He's a part of your future. You know what I mean? Like there is that. Now, I do want to ask, because it's obligatory. Miami could win game 5, right? It would be very Miami of them to win game 5. Like Eric Spoelstra in his post game was all feisty and Spo-like and saying, we just got to get this back to the 305. Like you didn't just lose the last 4 games on your home floor. All right, cool. Let's go with that, Spo. You got to get it back to the 305. All right, cool. You got to get back here for game 6. Okay, cool. Can they get it back? Is there a route? Is there a way for them to get it back other than Jimmy Butler going Super Saiyan or Bam Adebayo or one of those shooters finally coming alive and doing it on the road like they did in game 2? Is it playing smaller? Is there a counter to anything strategically that Denver puts up that Miami hasn't necessarily exploited to this point?
I mean, it does feel like they've sort of run out of counters at this point. But, yeah, I mean, I think there's a way they can win. They certainly won't be the team that's like ready for vacation. They will come and they will play their ass off. And, I mean, I think it's just a matter of whether their shooters make a ton of threes.
Make them his league, right?
I mean, I pretty much think that's their chance. But with having to win 3, I think it's a wrap.
Their thinking is we got to win 1, which is exactly what the Celtics, maybe we need a Jaylen Brown quote sheet that says, don't let us win 1 game. And then we wind up being back in Denver for game 7 or something, right? And then we wind up going right into the draft and everything else. And nobody has a bleeping off season because Miami decided to make this series a week longer than it should have. But I don't know what much more that they can do aside, maybe divine intervention. You know what I mean? Like maybe that's what it is. Maybe divine intervention. I felt like Jimmy Butler got some really good shots in the last couple of games. I just don't know if he can access the greatness that's required, because they're still staying home. Duncan Robinson, those guys are not getting clean looks. Strus is not getting clean looks. Gabe Vincent is not getting clean looks. I feel like we're going to be in anticipation of a Denver onslaught in game 5 where they can win, they can clinch a championship. They've never come close to even being anywhere near there. The town, the arena, it will be a very celebratory atmosphere before game 5 begins. Maybe you catch them slipping, right? Maybe you catch Denver slipping. But Michael Malone seems like an intense chap. I don't know if he's going to be the type that's going to let his team, let his team be overconfident or anything. And with Jokic, he ain't moved by much of anything anyway. I don't even know if overconfidence or underconfidence is part of that man's vocabulary. That dude just kicks it. You know what I mean? So, Ben, it's been an interesting finals. So I'm very much looking forward to how game 5 plays out Monday night. Is there any player in particular that you're looking forward to seeing on game 5 Monday?
Michael Porter Jr. Maybe is there
an APB out for him? APB, okay.
Yeah. But it does feel like, he's kind of due. Maybe he's injured. I don't know. But if there's a guy that's due, it's him. Yeah, he would be the guy. I don't know. It seems like tonight was the night the Heat, this was their chance, It was Jokic in foul trouble. Murray had, I think, 15 points on 17 shots, and they still lost by 13. So it's tough. I was thinking when I see Jokic, like with that blank look on his face, I think of like Ivan Drago, and if this was if Rocky was not a Hollywood script, Ivan Drago would probably just cremate him and pummel Rocky, and that's like what this series is.
You can't win. That's basically what we're at. We're at the you can't win part for the Miami Heat. That has been Rohrbach. You can find him on Twitter at Yahoo Sports. You can also find me there. He will also be joining us so much throughout the summer on all the Yahoo Sports NBA podcasts. I'm your host, Vincent Goodwill. Don't forget, we have another podcast following Game 5. It will probably be me. If it is me, it will be in a much different suit, and maybe it'll be surrounded by confetti and some green stuff in the air because we will be in Denver, and y'all know how Denver likes to get down in a very celebratory atmosphere. This is the Ball Don't Lie podcast. Don't forget about Kristen Peaks pod. Also forget about No Cap Room with Jake and Dan. So we're going to have some fun. Everybody be safe. Thanks to John Gennaro. Thanks to Evan. Thanks to Ron. Appreciate all you guys. See you guys after Game 5 from the NBA Finals.